We couldn't even get on the goddamn television for what, 2 months without who was that guy that called up and said that he owned the NWA and he was going to sue because he was Frank Gotch's fucking nephew, or what the fuck was that story?
There was a guy who actually was a manager up in Stampede by the name of Jonathan Dodd.
Jonathan Dodd, that's right.
And Jonathan Dodd worked for the Hearts up at Stampede, and he was living in California. And he went ahead and he sent this whole big rigmarole letter to World Wrestling Federation Legal Department, Jerry McDevitt's office, because I remember getting a phone call first from you and then from somebody from the freaking legal department.
They came in
saying,
my
like,
office.
Howard, what the hell is going on here? This guy's saying he owns the NWA. And it's like, well, we had to send Trowbridge after him. We had to send him cease and desist orders. He actually told me that
Hold on now. They came in my office and they were all, and this is the same people that whenever I would get a phone call, they'd say, Harvey Race called for you or whatever. They didn't know any wrestling history, right? They come in, we got these papers and then blah, blah, blah. And I said, there is no Jonathan Dodd owns the NWA. Believe me, I know the lineage. This is legit. These people are legitimate. This guy is bullshit. I'm going to call Howard. And I called you, and then they did right afterwards. But he was claiming that they had to license the NWA from him, or else he's going to sue everybody in sight.
Yeah. He was looking for a money grab, obviously. Didn't know, anything. And he claimed that Lou Thesz was on his board of directors. Yes. I called Lou, and I said, Lou, what the hell is with this guy? He goes, I don't know. He claims he owns it. I said, does it really? I said, so you're on his board of directors? He goes, well, he asked me to be on his board of directors. He's not paying me anything. So I said, all right, Lou, that's all I need to know. I called Bob Trowbridge. I said, okay, Bob. I said, time to start sending cease and desist to all these fucking characters out here. And there was like one or two others that popped up also. We started doing like, the internet was still kind of new. You're talking about 1998, the middle of, the beginning part of 98. So, we're talking, 19 years ago? So we had all this shit. We had to do a search. We had to make sure nobody else was using the name. And as a matter of fact, now we had the first pay-per-view that we were going into, we're Wrestling Federation, where the NWA title, Jeff Jarrett was going to defend, and this was before Severny even got there. Jeff Jarrett was going to defend the North American title against somebody, and I had to sign a contract with World Wrestling Federation to give them permission to use the NWA name on TV. And you're going to love this, actually. So they go ahead and they send me this.
Well, I remember that because they said we've got to get all the clearances and the rights on this thing and blah, blah, blah before we can advertise, especially on pay-per-view.
Right, but what the funny part about this is, and I don't know how this could actually lead into our whole NWA of today discussion, but I'll let you choose that. When we got sent the contract, it was kind of an open-ended deal because we had no idea how long we were going to be with World Wrestling Federation, how long the thing was going to go on TV. They had yet to bring Severin in, so that was going to be something that was going to come up. So they asked us if we would sign a release that would give them permission to use the NWA, National Wrestling Alliance, and the belt and everything else, because of the lawsuit before time with the NWA and the Flair belt and all of that shit.
Yeah, so the intellectual property. It's so
right.
big
So we said, of
wrestling.
course. So of course we said we would sign it. So they sent us the contract, and then I got a phone call from Bob Trowbridge. He goes, Howard, he says, do you really want to sign this contract? I go, yeah, why? He says, well, it's open-ended. I go, well, what do you mean? He says, well, technically, they can use the NWA whenever the hell they want to. It's like, well, what do you mean? He says, like, in the future, if they decide they want to use the National Wrestling Alliance, they want to use the NWA, they can, and there's nothing we could do. And I said, Bob, we're getting no money in the fucking bank. I said, we have no members. This is before, we had maybe like 5 members at the time now that had joined. I said, this is going to give at least the promoters a chance of making some money by having the exposure on WWF television. Because we were. When we got that exposure on WWF television, all the promoters who were jumping on board, all of a sudden they got a spike. They got a spike at their shows. You were doing third-party bookings, which we were able to get talent, it was like second and third tier talent, but we were able to get some talent from World Wrestling Federation. So that was helping, and we were able to say, as seen on WWF television or WWF Superstar or whatever the hell it was, And so that helped the local promoters. So it's like, Bob, let me sign the fucking thing. We don't have TV. We're never going to have a pay-per-view. We don't have, we didn't even think about fucking videotapes or whatever at the time. It's like, let's just do this fucking thing. So it's like, all right, just understand what you're signing. So, I went ahead and I signed that away. And unless I'm mistaken, that contract is still in effect.
Well, now wait
real interesting.
Wait a minute. Hold on here. Back up. Slow down, cowboy. I remember this, and I'm vouching for this. That's what you had to do to get them to mention the NWA and show the belt and all somebody else's intellectual property on TV and pay-per-view and et cetera. But there was no end date to that document. So basically, that means that for the last 20 years and conceivably forevermore, the WWE has had, probably without even knowing it, the rights to advertise and use the NWA name and belt and history and whatever the fuck else they want to use of NWA anytime they wanted to do it?
Yeah.
Well, then, what the fuck?
Well, here's the thing.
Wait a minute. What did Billy Corgan just buy then?
Well, look, he bought the actual brand, but I'm sure they listen. If Billy's listening, he can call me at any time. Listen,
wait a minute. We got. Hold on. We're extrapolating further here because we might have a scoop. If Billy Corgan was to build up some type of presence for the NWA, whether it's a promotion or a group or a cooperative of promoters or a brand or whatever the fuck, if it does take off, the WWE has a contract sitting there in its files in Stamford, Connecticut that says that they can use the name and the likeness and the belt and the Zabada anytime they want to.
Yeah, pretty much. And I'm sure if they can't find their copy, I know I still got a copy because I don't throw shit out. So I know I got a copy of that thing. But, listen, are they going to do that? I don't think they would. I mean, not to put anything past anybody, but it's if they haven't done it in 20 years. I don't think they would. I don't think they would do it unless it was something that could drastically benefit them.
The NWA hadn't meant anything in a while,